Hello guys, Nigel here with you, Nigel's Modelling Bench. Welcome back to the channel, and here we are now with part 7 of the build of this beautiful Sikorsky CH54A Tarhe from ICM. Really coming along well. As you can see, still working on sub-assemblies. Lots of little bits and pieces to show you, just to go through. I've also done a lot of black painting, not necessarily as a primer, but as some seam checking, but also areas like, if you look at this, you have this box that goes on top, and that's going to fit around here somewhere. So spraying inside there black, spraying underneath it black, so that we don't get grey plastic showing through. So that's the idea there. You can see on these air intakes or these air filters, going around checking the seams, putting the paint on, then you can see what you're looking at rather than looking at the grey plastic. There is a it all fits together beautifully. This is very much like the fuselage. You've sort of got the corners sort of butting together, and then you just sand out that seam, and the same on the ends. Very nicely done indeed. And then on here we will have this bit here going on the side. That'll fit on there, and again we've got a seam down there which I've seam checked. So yeah, and I haven't put those on for ease of sanding all this, so I'll put those on in a minute now. We've also got in the ends of those, where are they? We've got these cones, and I don't actually know what these are. I don't know if they're air outlets or what they are, but these cones go in there. So that's basically going to sit on the side like that, and you've got two of those cones going in and facing in whatever direction they have to go in. It's worth noting, actually, I've just remembered something in the instructions. There is a mistake, so if you're watching ICM, to change this, when you come to make these air filters, you're going in and building up this one here, which is going to be the left hand side, no, the right hand side, starboard, sorry, because you've got the cones there sitting out the side out to the right, and then they're showing you here that's the wrong way around. So that one there is actually that one there, and that image there is that one there. So make sure you don't sort of follow this lead here, because it's the wrong way around. So that bit's going to go on that side on both of them, but the actual cone bit changes. Okay, so that's something worth noting. There's also something else I wanted to show you. These little winches here, they have a great big seam line around the middle of them. They're sort of made in two halves. I wish they kind of made a centerpiece and then had two end plates going. It would have been a lot nicer. But you've got this great big seam. In reality, that is like a metal plate over there, like a sheet over the top. So you could either cover it in plastic card, or what I've done is filled it in with super glue and then sanded it out, so it kind of disappears that way. And then we have these frames here, and these are going to go onto the sides like so, and locate them in place, and they're going to go on the sides of the main body. As you can see here, you have these winches going down. Now, if you want to build these up as sub-assemblies, you've got these little cylindrical tanks that go on here, and then you've got the little like arm on there that goes on the top. You can see on there, and I was kind of wondering how many. They're all different numbers. They're G93 to G96, and the way to identify them, if you look on here, you can see that this one here, 177, you can see it's long. In fact, let's look at this one here because it's bigger. You can see 173, you can see that it's short, whereas this one is long. Okay, so there's two short ones, two long ones. If you look down here, the detail on that one is different than the detail on that one. So that's the way to identify them. So I know that that one there is G95, because it's got the plain detail, whereas this one, if I put the two together, you can see the difference in that detail on that end. Okay, so that's how you identify those, to make sure you use the right ones. And that's that. So basically, I go along just getting things painted black. You can see how lovely those exhausts have come out. They're looking really nice. So yeah, ICM did a bloody good job on those. Absolutely awesome. We've got the rotor head there done. We've got the engines painted. Done some seam checking and then reprimed them again. and then various bits and pieces that are going on. The other thing I've done, like this protector here, this goes on the back there. That's going to cover the drive shaft that goes up to the rear, the tail rotor, and obviously painted black under there, black inside there, so we haven't got grey plastic in there. So yeah, there we go. So that's what I've been basically up to. I've also painted the winch. So unfortunately, got this beautiful cable detail on here, and there's a seam in there, believe it or not, and it just cleans up beautifully. But when it goes in, you won't see it. So I just drilled a hole in it, because when it goes in, it goes up under there, like so, and you won't actually see any of that lovely cable detail at all, which is unfortunate. Never mind. I suppose you'll see a bit of it here, won't you? But nothing much. So that's all of that done. The other thing I want to talk about was this area here, down here, the riveting. Obviously, there's no riveting down there on the kit, and there is very prominent riveting there on the real thing. Now, if you remember, I was waiting for the HGW rivets to come, and they've come, and I fitted them, and then sprayed over them, and I don't even know if you can see them on there, but you can hardly see them at all, especially compared to these. So I've got these as well. These rivets are from Micromark. I'm not even sure if you can still get them. These are built for model railwayers. And you can see it's just basically a sheet of rivets, and they're a lot more pronounced. So what I'm going to do is put some of these, I've got some here cut out, I'm going to put some of these in that area, sort of down there and down there, just to see if I can make it look a bit better, because it's got a very prominent, it's like a double row down there. They sort of go like this. I'm not going to do that, I'm just going to put a single row down there. So we'll see how it looks with these on, because those HGW ones, I mean, they're lovely and probably fantastically to scale for, you know, a flush riveted aircraft, but for this, where they're prominently raised, it's not enough. I'm not sure if you can see that on there or not, but it is there. So that's that. So I'll do that off camera. One of the biggest issues with these, the nice things about the HGW, you remove the film and all you've got is rivets, little dotted dickles, whereas with this you have a carrier film to get rid of. So it's 6 of one, half and does the other. So we'll see how it looks, and if it don't look any good, we'll just sand them off. And then once that's done, I'm going to start looking at getting the clear parts masked up, and perhaps think about getting this front end fitted. So yeah, trying to get myself back into this. Right, I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so here we are back again about a week later. So I've done the rivets, and these are the Micromark rivets I just showed you. I put them down, and I've gone over them with what I did. I put some gloss black paint down, and put them on that so that I could use some, lots of decal setting solutions, and it's sort of really made them go down. But if I catch it in the light, you can probably see the rivets there. Okay, so there they are, and you can probably see the carrier film as well, which is a bit of a shame. I may go over it and see if I can sand them out, but I'm worried about sanding out the rivets as well. But this is one of the problems with the Micromark ones, is you have that decal film, so it's a problem. But they do look a lot better in comparison to these. I'm not going to bother going down this. If you remember this spine area, I lost some rivet detail. I'm not going to go down there because the decal film is going to be so pronounced there. I'd rather have the faint rivets in that area there than have the decal film. So we'll leave that as it is. I'm sure it'll look absolutely fine. People have been messaging saying it would have had rivets missing and that anyway. It may have had the odd one or two missing, but it wouldn't have a whole row because the seam would split apart. So yeah, but down there, I mean, it should be a double row rivets, as I said. They go like this. But the Micromark ones that are set up like that are too close together, so I've just put a single row. I just didn't want to see that bare plastic edge there because it just didn't look right compared to all this other rivet detail. So moving on now, I'm thinking we need to get this fitted to the actual main fuselage. But before I do that, I'm going to fit these windows because it's going to make life a lot easier. Yeah, it's going to make life a lot easier than trying to fit them with the whole thing all together. I may just fit this one here. I'll still be able to get. I'm thinking of if I get anything in there when I start dealing with the seams around here, but I can still get in there and blow it out. So anyway, let's go from there. So I have the Art Scale Kit scale mask. These are the double-sided ones, M35005. They also do a single-sided one, which will probably be M35006. I have reviewed it. Go back and have a look. I have them behind me in a box. I can't get my hand on them right now. But basically this is a double-sided one, so you can mask inside and out. Now, obviously this is a brand new set, so if you get the exterior only, that's what you're going to get. So you've got all these masks to do the outside of the glazing on the front, the outside of the glazing on the back of the glazing that's going to go in here, and then you've got all your various windows going around the cab, and then you've got your main side doors there. And what I asked Peter to do was to give us a way of making these rubber frames around the windows, and what I suggested was have a mask that goes on so you could spray it black, then have another mask that goes on that covers the black, and then you can spray your green. He's gone the other way around it. So what you're going to do here is actually fit your windows, put the masking on, spray your green, and then put these round the outside edge and spray the black to get your rubber around the window. So that's what we're going to be doing. It's worth noting here that it's upside down, so it looks a bit strange when you look at it like that. It looks a bit strange. It's actually upside down, so it's not backwards, it's just upside down. This one here is also upside down. This one here is the right way up. So there we go. And we've also got wheel masks there for the nose wheel and the main wheels as well, which is nice. The one thing that is missing is you have this clear disc that goes in the top in the rotor head. There's no mask for that, but I'm sure we can make that ourselves, or maybe even use a wheel mask or something like that. We shall see when we come to that. Or just paint the rotor head part and then fit the clear part after. I guess that's another way. If you get the double-sided set, which I've got here, you have all the interior masks as well. Now, what he's done here is given us masks for the inside of these side windows, and I've had a quick check, and they're sort of almost size for size correct. So there's no real point in masking them and then spraying the interior colour on, or rubber or whatever, because you're not going to be able to see it from inside anyway, because they're size for size. What he's done here is, if I had it all still apart, what he's done is allowed you to spray the interior panels, okay, grey, and then mask the windows from the inside and put these panels around the outside, so you can also have the black framing on the inside. But it's going to be very, very difficult to do with it all built up like this. With separate side panels it would be easy, so when I do my next one, that's what I'll do. But we've got all the interior masking here for the side doors, and this for this rear panel, and this here for the main screen as well. So that's going to come in handy, but we won't be using any of them. They'll just go in the spares box. So that's what I'm going to do now, is get on and mask this up. Right then, so you can see we've done the masking now. I've masked up the inside of that panel using the Art Scale Kit mask. They really are very, very good, and they fit beautifully. I like the way he does things like this, like with these big panels here. You can see it's two masks rather than just the one, so you can manipulate and get all the corners good rather than trying to just get one huge square to fit. I've used the Mr. Hobby Mr. Masking Salt R from Premium Hobbies, and I've used that on there. It's great for these large areas. This stuff is brilliant because it peels off really easily. The one thing I don't like about it, if you use it on small areas, I've mentioned this before, like if you're masking like a small light or something, like a bulb, so it's got like sort of like a sphere. When you pull it off, it's quite tough and it can just break the part off. So it's great for stuff like this, but be a little bit careful with the other. I have got the Migamo one here, which I really wouldn't recommend because it's just gone off. I mean, that's all I've got left, and when I try to use it, it just instantly dries on the stick and it won't come off on the plastic. So I don't really know why I've kept it, to be honest. But this stuff, really good. So, and these masks, really good. As I say, I'm not bothering masking the inside of these windows because size for size they're the same. So what I'll do is I'll do my normal. I'll go around the outside of them with a black marker pen. I'll put them in, and then what we'll do is mask them when we spray the thing green, and then we'll use the other mask to spray the black frames around them. I've masked up the interior of the doors. I have noticed there's no rivets on these panels. There should be riveting on these doors, and there should be riveting around here as well, but there's none. So when I build the other one, I may actually add some of those micro scale rivets and cut them so they're the same width as the frame, and that way we won't see the edge of the carrier film. but I think that would make it look a lot better on the front. But I don't think they've put them in because it would have involved slide moulding and stuff, and slide moulding with clear parts is probably not good. Yeah, there was also, on mine, there was a large piece of flash on the bottom there, so I cut and sanded that off. But I'm not sure how it's going to fit. I haven't been able to try it because I've got this protective cardboard on my front. But be interested to see how it all goes on. So what we can do now is get this all painted. I can't even remember, it was so long ago that I did this. I can't remember what colour I used on the inside. Was it XF54? Or was it an LP pan? I'll have to go back and watch my videos. But basically spray the inside of these this colour. The other thing to remember, if you are super detailing one of these, in reality there are lots of cables and things running down these pillars, so you could add those with some plastic rod or whatever, or some twisted up cable, and that will really sort of make it stand out, much like on that Russian helicopter I've got, where it's got the windscreen wiper motors in there, completely missing from the kit, but you've got them in the Quintus Studio set. So there we go. So I'm going to get on now and get these painted, and then I'll come back when I've done that. We'll let it dry, we'll remove the masking, and then we'll look at fitting these parts on. Don't forget to remove the masking before you fit the parts. Yeah. Right, so let's get cleared up, get some painting done. Right, so they're all painted now. I decided to take the doors off the sprue so I didn't end up with a clear bit down the side there. So they're all painted. We'll get them off the blue tack. Careful when you're pushing these onto blue tack, because it is quite a soft plastic for clear plastic. It's not as brittle as most, but it will still be more brittle than ordinary opaque plastic. So now we've got this done, we can go, in fact we'll do this bit first because this is when we're going to be gluing on. Take a very sharp point and just get underneath the corner, just like that, without pushing it downwards. Keep it flat, and then you should be able to come with a pair of tweezers and just peel the mask away. And I'm telling you, these masks are absolutely awesome, and it's even come away with the film in the middle. You can see how easy that comes off as well. And then with a cotton bud, get a new cotton bud, not an old one, just go over and remove any marks or any residual glue or whatever. You can see I've got some residual bits and pieces in there. We can do that afterwards, and then we'll do the same on here. We'll just come in with the corner of the knife, lift up the corner, sorry, the point of the knife, lift up the corner, and then just remove the mask, like so. I recommend doing this while the paint is still softish. This is painted about half an hour ago, 3/4 of an hour ago. I painted it and then took Jess for a walk in the rain. So, which is always a pain because you get soaking wet and you come back, you got to get changed and everything, and you're all cold and damp and the dog's all wet and smelly. It's bloody awful. But she's got to go out, so there we go. And as you can see, we have now got our interior frames painted. When you look from the outside, you'll see the grey, but once we paint the outside green, you won't see that. But what I do like about it, if you go back and look at my Hurricane build, when you actually look at an angle, like when you look down through it, you see the grey frame inside, and it kind of looks like how it would, because you'd have like a frame with a piece of perspex in between, wouldn't you? It wouldn't be flat plastic. So it's really impressive. I was really impressed. But it's the first time, I believe, from memory, I believe it's the first time I've ever done internal masking on that Hurricane. We've also got the Spitfire to do, which I know you're all dying to see. And I am getting myself together, lads, so don't worry. I haven't just dropped it. People are asking about the Lancaster as well. I haven't dropped it. I just don't work on kits if my heart's not in it. And at the moment, I'm struggling even to do this. But doing this, making the video, talking to you guys, it's getting my enthusiasm back. So that can only be a good thing for everyone, including my bloody mental health. Because while I'm doing this, I'm not going to the pub, which is what I've been doing for the last couple of weeks, and it's not good. And it's not cheap either. So there we go. Anyway, enough waffling. I do believe I just scratched that then. That's unfortunate. But it would probably be scratched and beaten up anyway. But there we go. So you can see we've got when you look from the outside, you can see the frame. The inside is the grey paint. So when we look at that on there now, we don't see the green plastic, the green paint or whatever behind it. So yeah, I'm really impressed with how that's come out. Yes, I have scratched that out there, but never mind. But there is some glue next to it as well from the tape. So, yeah, so the tape. So I'll get some alcohol or something on there and just remove that. But anyway, I'll go on and do the windscreen, and then when I come back, I think we'll look at fitting this. All right, so we got all them off now, all looking lovely. You can see the windscreen, and as I say, these masks are bloody wonderful. They're really awesome. Something I have noticed, I did remove this cardboard to do a dry fit. I wasn't going to say anything, but bit of a problem with this clear part. You can see how much wider that is. If I hold that like that and put that like that, you can see how much wider it is. It's going to take a lot of flexing. So what I might do is pull it together and run it under a hot tap, because it's totally flattened. It's obviously come out of the mold too quickly or whatever. I shall have to check my other one and see what it's like. But yeah, that is definitely too wide. In fact, I'm going to grab my other one now and we'll have a quick look. Okay, so here's my other kit, and you can see, I don't want to take it out of the bag, it's pointless, but you can see there this one is a good 6mm wider. So it's not the same for all of them. So worth remembering. So I think I'm going to put that under some hot water and see if it does anything. I might test the sprue in hot water first in case it fogs it or something. But that's a lot to hold in, you know, especially if we're using clear glues or whatever, which I never do. But it's a lot to hold in and try and clamp it in place without marking anything. It's going to be a nightmare. But maybe I'll just cover it in masking tape, clamp it, and then do it. I'll get back to you when I've done it. Okay, so I put it under the hot water. It didn't fog it up or anything. It's had a funny reaction on the paint there, but I'm not worried about that. But yeah, it didn't do anything. So the hot water's obviously hot enough. I don't want to chance boiling water. The other thing I was thinking, and I should have thought this before, if this has been sort of, it's gone when it's come out of the mold tool, or it's had weight on top of it or something while it was curing, then it's found its own shape. And if I go and now hold it under the hot water, it's going to move in the easiest place. So it might sort of bend in here, and then this won't fit. So what I've done, I've put some tape on there, I held it in place, and it'll just stay like that for now for a few days, and we'll see what happens. In fact, I'll put it in a little bag, and that way we know it won't get scratched. But it's going to be a bit of a nightmare to fit, and if we do end up struggling, I may end up using the one out of the other kit and emailing ICM for a replacement sprue, because I think it might be a bit of a swine to fit. We'll just have to see how easily it all glues in place. But put that in there and it won't get scratched. So that's our masking done. We've painted the insides. Now I want to look at fitting this panel here. It's not going to be the easiest thing in the world to do. I'm going to grab a sanding stick and just remove the paint from here so that I can get a good bond. Just like that. Just notice there's a bit of sprue nib left there. And this is what I was saying about getting dust inside. I'd rather leave it open so I can get in there. So this fits lovely. One tiny little fit issue in that this panel here or this panel here, they're not dead straight. So the clear panel is kind of bowed out in the middle. It's pushed out here. So what I'm going to do is bond that corner and then bond this corner, and perhaps use a tiny drop of super glue and hope it doesn't fog. It shouldn't fog because it's got air all around it. But I think what I'm going to do is a tiny drop of super glue just in that corner there to hold it in place, and then I'll do the rest with extra thin. And the other thing I want to do, again, this doesn't help the bonding 1,000,000%, but it'll get away from this silvery edge that I hate. So I'm just going to get my Sharpie and go around the edge just to give it a black edge rather than the shiny chrome that we see. And if you haven't seen me do this before, where have you been? I do this on all my clear parts. And it takes away from the chrome edge. It's a bit weird, this part. Some of the edges are at like 45 degrees, so we're going to have a really small contact area. I hope it's going to be okay. At the end of the day, I don't think the actual Perspex panel they put in fitted perfectly anyway, so remember, this is a helicopter, not an aeroplane. It's not built to the same kind of standard. You know, because it doesn't have to withstand the speed or the aerodynamics or whatever. It's basically a tank with a motor on its roof, isn't it? So we can see there we've got a bit of an issue as well. It sort of needs to come out a bit here. So I think what we do is glue this first. It is very slightly out of shape. I've got a feeling I've just got a bit of a dodgy sprue, that's all. But it's a tiny bit out of shape there. So I may have to glue this here. I don't know if you can see that, but it's like the side has got a curve on it and the clear part is straight. If I push the bottom up, it probably comes back into place. Yeah, this one's distorted as well, I think. So I think what I'll do is glue this down here first, let that go off, just sit it there like that and glue it, let that go off and then pull it all about. So let me see what I can do and then I'll come back and tell you what I've done. Okay, so this has been a complete and utter nightmare. What I've had to do is kind of tack it with super glue to get the right shape, because it was bowed here, it was too straight there, and it was sticking out at the bottom. So I've had to sort of pull it out, push it in, pull it out, push it in, and push this in. And you can see up here, when I push this in, I held it. It's really weird what's happened, so be very careful. You can see there, what I've done, I've held it in place, put the super glue on, and when I let it go, the plastic part has cracked and crazed down into the clear area. Look. So I mean, I could just put a bloody sticker there or something, you know, US Air Force 9th Army, whatever, you know, sticker to cover it up, or just a blotch of mud or something. I'll just leave it because it's probably quite accurate. They probably got that in real life. But yeah, I can feel it with a cocktail stick. I can feel it's actually cracked the clear part where it's obviously holding it in that little area, and it's just pulled it away. So this has been a complete nightmare. I'm judging by the fact that my other sprue is fine and this one is deformed, that this is not a usual thing. But it's going to be a nightmare for those of you who like to use, you know, crystal clear and stuff, because it ain't going to hold it. You're not going to hold it in place. So what I'm going to do now is let this super glue just sort of have a couple of hours to dry out, or half an hour or whatever, and then I'm going to run around with some extra thin and try and get it to sort of weld together. I might put a drop more super glue in here because you can see we've got a very slight gap in there that's going to have to be filled. Yeah, it's not ideal, but as I say, I think it's my kit rather than a general sort of ICM thing. We'll have to see when we build the other one, but certainly that windscreen I showed you, it's much wider than the one in my other kit. So, but it's gone in, it's there, it's got no scratches on it, and once it's all glued in, we'll be happy with it, and it'll be fine. So I'll see you when I've got it all glued in. Okay, so further on, I've put glue all around there now, Mr. Tamiya Extra Thin. So now what we're going to do, I've gone round, you can see I've painted around there with some Mr. Surfacer 1200, so it's nice and thin, so it'll get into any joints, and that'll just make sure we fill any cracks or anything. I'm going to use IPA to remove it. I've only just put it on about 5 or 10 minutes ago, so it'll be easy to remove with IPA. And the reason I'm doing that, I don't want to use levelling thinners because I'm not sure if this clear plastic is going to be affected by levelling thinners. So what we can do, because it's not been on there very long, we can remove it with IPA. If it's been on there for more than sort of an hour, it's real difficult to remove with IPA. You need to use levelling thinners, but I'm not sure. I know that in the past I've used Mr. Surfacer Black to do this, and I've actually got it on the clear parts, and it has actually affected the clear parts. So I'm not sure if the chemicals in the levelling thinner will actually attack this. So I'm using IPA because it's nice and gentle and it shouldn't affect it. If it does, we'll polish it out, but I don't think it's going to. So there we are. So you can see I removed remove the excess from there, and it leaves us a nice seam. I've got a little bit of sanding to do on the top there. I've got the window is just sticking out at the top. Let's get some more IPA on here, on a clean end. I'm using these hard wooden sticks that were bought for me by the lovely Simon Cousins. Thank you, Simon. I've still got loads of them left. So there we go. So that's that all removed. I think I'm going to sand that there so that I don't remove the Mr. Surfacer that's in the seam already. So we come over here, just get in there and get that out. You see, just removing the excess so that we just end up with a seam rather than a load of paint everywhere. And it'll also help to sort of level things up. If there's a bit of a step or whatever, it'll help to level it up. So here we are, just removing that like that. Just like so. And there we go. Just go across the rivets as well to get it out of the, so the rivets stay nice and sharp. Yeah, I'm going to have to use load thinners because I just cannot, this is not hot enough to get in there and get the, you can see it's kind of bridged those rivets there. Oh, it's getting in there now. Maybe if I try one of the softer buds, maybe that will work. So that's that done. So I'll get this finished off, and then I think we'll look at probably getting those masks on there so it's all protected and doesn't get scratched. Alright, there we go. All cleaned up, all fitted, all gone round. I'm not going to worry about sanding that up there. This down here, I wish I'd tried a bit harder. We can see we've got a bit of a step there. But I don't think when it's all painted green, I don't think it's going to notice. But perhaps what I should have done, I've tacked it there and there. Perhaps I should have pushed it up harder here to make it bow out a bit more. But then I had a gap here, didn't I? So it's out of shape, as I say. It's been a bit of a nightmare, but hopefully the next one I do will be easier. So as far as masking it goes, I've decided I'm not going to use the Art Scale Kit mask at the moment because at my current build rate, they could be on there for bloody weeks. So what I'm going to do is just cover it up with this tape here, which is absolutely brilliant, but it's also got a nice low tack to it. And the other thing I do is put it on my skin, and that'll remove the skin, because what I'm worried about, if I put those masks on there and they really get tied down, yeah, then what's going to happen, I'll pull the glazing out when I pull the masking off, so that's not what I want to do. So we'll just, all I want to do is stop it getting scratched, because we've got a lot of work to do with fitting this onto the main fuselage. And as I said just now, well, ages ago for me, just now for you, I didn't want to fit it with the fuselage in the way, and after the fiasco we've had with it, I'm glad I didn't. So there we go. Just detack that a bit, and then put some tape around the bottom. And today is Tuesday. It's the 11th of April. It's, what is it, 53 years today that Apollo 13 went off. So, there we go. So that's that covered up now. We can put our frog tape away and carry on with the build. Okay, so we're back. Let's get the light a bit better for you. Go. So we're back again. Right. Got all these clear windows off the sprue. Something I should have shown you, but went on and did it, and I'm sort of annoyed myself for not showing you. The sprue connection points, you can see that on these windows, they sort of sit in, there's like a step, and they sit in a corresponding step in the side of the body there. The sprue connection is the full width of the clear part, so you sort of sand it off and get rid of the sprue nib sticking out, but then you've still got this sort of tab in there, and the best way to get rid of that is come along with a radius knife like I do here and just roll it and cut that out, get rid of it, and then it's gone. Otherwise it will hold the window away. The other thing they could have done, of course, is put some cutouts in here so that they had somewhere to go in, but yeah, so make sure you get them out or your windows are going to set all over the place. The other thing you can see, you've got a black edge around here. Again, I've gone round with a what do you call them, a Sharpie, and then a little bit of IPA on a cotton bud and just wipe over the inside just to make sure you don't have any ink from your fingers or the pen or whatever on the interior surface. And then you can also give it a bit of a clean just to make sure there's no horrible marks on there. And then we can literally drop this in place like so. That will just sit in there, and it's a lovely fit, very nice fit indeed. Unfortunately, because of the tab going into the part, you end up with that sort of white mark there on the side, which you can't really do much about. So unfortunately that's going to be there, but we've basically got, we can feel our rubber edge around there. So once these are in and dry, ready to paint, we can mask them off, spray the model green, and then we'll put the mask around the outside and spray these surrounding frames with the black. Now I'm not really sure how I'm going to go about gluing these windows in without leaving a mark, and I'm not going to do it on camera because I need to do it under a magnifier. But basically what I'll do, I will come in with the extra thin, imagine this is the brush, it's way bigger, and I will just literally tap it on the corners and let the glue go around, and that's how I'm going to glue them in. I don't want to use any clear glues that are going to ooze out. I don't want to use any clear glues that are going to be soft. There are clear glues that you can go on after the cotton bud and wipe away, whatever, but I would rather use extra thin to glue my clear parts because it gives you a nice solid joint. So let's give this a go. Actually, if I mess it up, I mess it. In fact, let's not do that one. Let's do that staying in there. Let's do one of these. Let's do the top one, because that won't necessarily be seen if I do mess it up, but I'd like to do it with the magnifiers so that I can really see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to push that into place there. You can see that's sitting in there, and I can come along with the extra thin, and with the tiny little brush I can come onto the plastic part, work my way over to the clear, just let it go around just like so. It's hard to see the brush against the white background, but there we go. You don't need much in there because it's a very good fit. But what we do is, what I'm doing, I've covered this in many videos, guys. I always do. Come down onto the plastic and then move over to the clear part. Don't try and put it on the joint, because what you might do is touch the clear part. Now on these it's not that important because basically you've got a frame around the outside that's going to be covered with paint, so it's not that important. But we can see that is glued in. We can come in and do that again if we want to. As long as you don't hang around, you won't mark the plastic. The glue will just dry and just evaporate. I mean, it's going to be weathered and everything anyway, so don't really worry about it too much. Because I'll just come down onto the plastic and then move over to the clear part and let the glue capillary around. Cut down onto the plastic and move over. And that way, if you go onto the plastic, you move over it, you're not going to be putting marks. Excuse me, marks on your clear part. So that's all glued in now, nice and solid, and I can go on and do all the others exactly the same. And I said I'm not going to do it on camera because I want to do it under a magnifier. So I'll see you in a minute. There we go, guys, they're all glued in. It's really strange actually, because these on the side kind of have the rubber frame on them and these don't, they're just flat. So we're going to have to use paint to like the rubber frame, but they're going to be kind of underneath anyway. You know, no one's going to be really looking in there, are they? But anyway, yeah, they're lovely. Worth noting, I'm not sure if it was just me or whatever, but on this window here, I first fitted it with the sprue nib on this side, and it didn't seem to fit very well. So I thought, I wonder if it's got the radius is not constant. So I turned it over. Make sure when you fit this window, you have the sprue nib facing to the rear. And it fits perfectly. So if you have got issues fitting that one, sprue nib to the rear, and it will fit lovely. So it's a little bit of a shame we can see them, but it's because we've had to carve out the plastic to get rid of them. But what we'll do is we'll let them dry, and then we'll give them a good clean on the inside and out with a nice, we use one of our soft cotton buds, and then We can do it inside as well. As you can see, we can get in there and give them a rub once the glue is dry. But I'm going to leave them now overnight. It's nearly 2 o'clock in the morning at the moment, actually. Still Tuesday, well, it's Wednesday morning now. But yeah, I've been on Sue's channel tonight on Ice Queen 7, and I didn't really do much on there. So Mojo's obviously, for you reasons you all know, is suffering. So, but I've got this done today, and it's a pretty good sense of achievement because it doesn't look bad, does it? Just look all right. So we'll see how this fits on. We'll get that done tomorrow, and that I think will be the end of part 7 when we fitted this to the actual main body of the plane itself. So now they're dry. They've been a while dry, and I could come in the back, put my finger over the front of them just to make sure they don't get pushed out. I'll come in with a cotton bud, a soft cotton bud, and just give them a clean up. And there we go. You can see there, glazing's all good. A little bit of distortion, which I think is great because at this scale, I think it adds a bit because they won't be perfectly clear. You know, you look at the walk-arounds and stuff, and they're not perfectly clear. They have a little bit of distortion. So that's them done. So what I'm going to do now is with some bits of masking tape, which I have here, I'm just going to cover them up so that we don't inadvertently scratch them. Not sure that piece is going to be big enough for that one. Yes, it is. I'm going to remove this piece of tape here and put it back like that, so that it's covering the glazing rather than half the fuselage. So there we go, fuselage body, whatever you want to call it. There we go. So that's those covered, and then we should be able to grab a piece of 18mm, sort of that long. Is that going to be long enough to cover? Yeah, to cover those. In fact, I'm going to put the other end on there to make sure we don't have the tape near the glue joint, because if you get the glue on the tape, it will appear and ruin our clear parts. And there we go. So that's that. In fact, before I do this, I'm just going to de-tack that tape just to make it a little bit less sticky, because I don't want to go pulling the bloody windows out. There we go. Right, so we are now ready to start looking at getting these two parts joined together. Right, so here we go. This is a pretty major part of the build, a big part of the build. So this has got to slide in there. This is actually part of the cockpit roof here. I'll leave this tape on. I haven't fitted those levers on there yet for fear of knocking them off. But this is part of the cockpit roof. This is actually looks like a blanket hanging down or something. This is going to be part of the main structure. I've left these strips on here because I can. No other reason. And what this is going to do, this is going to slide into here. You can see I've added these tabs here for better support. You can see I've added those tabs there for better support. This here is a separate part. So this is going to slide in here, and it's all going to sort of butt up together and look lovely. Now, if you remember, I had that piece of cardboard over the cockpit here to protect all that, so we've got to be very careful with our fingers, because one stray finger going in there is going to snap things off. So we need to be very, very careful, especially with the size of the thing and everything. So that needs to be pulled back. Okay, so it's got to go back and down and butt up against there. So I think really the best way to do this is going to be to get one of these large Rebel clamps from Sweden, because you're all going to ask where they are. And I'm just going to put this on here and clamp it across this bulkhead here, and hopefully that will hold it in place, and I can get clamps on here without them being anywhere near the glue joint. So that's just lightly clamped, so I should now be able to position it. So I'll be so careful with my fingers. I should be able to position it like so and get it in there, pivoted down, and then tighten the clamp, and then we'll come on the other side and just check. I'm looking at this bottom joint here. I want that nice and parallel. I want it nice and parallel on the top, because we want the upper roof section to fit beautifully, because it's a sort of pretty focal point of the model, although it does get covered with engines and stuff. As we can see, that is now pulled down lovely. So if I get another, if I use a peg, if I can use a clothes peg to kind of pull it down without getting anywhere near that bulkhead. And what I'm going to try and do is glue this, just glue the sides here to that bulkhead, okay, and then leave it to dry, and then that will give me the ability to manipulate it or whatever if I need to without buggering up any of the joints. So let's get another clothes peg and put it on there. That's going to pull that down. So now we can push that around and butt it up and everything, and it will stay where it is because the clamps are good and tight. It's pulling it all together really tight. We've just got friction holding it all in. And as you can see, the joint down here is lovely, all along the bottom. The joint down here is lovely, all on the bottom. The joint there is great. The joint there is great. And most of all, the joint there is great. And that was the one I was really worried about, was that one there. Because if you don't get this glued in the right position, that joint there won't be right. So, what I think I'm going to do is get some cement into that bulkhead. Now the trouble is, this clamp has the rubber joint on it, so it looks like the glue could, if I'm not careful, capillary around. So I need to be really careful and make sure I don't get any glue on that rubber, because if I do, my rivet detail is gone. So I'm going to get in there. In fact, I'm going to get a brush. Where is a brush? Here we go, I've got this one here. Let's get this brush here. We'll get some cement on there, and I'm going to get it in there. Do the same on the other side, and make sure it doesn't go on that rubber. Okay, drop more in there. We want plenty in there for a good bit of weld action. And I'm tempted to just leave that like that to dry, and if it is anything wrong, it'd be easy enough to break away. But basically I'm holding it in onto that cross member there, or that bulkhead, holding that in there, holding it down like that, nice and tight, all the corners all butted up nicely, everything going together lovely. So I think we're good to go. And then if we do have an issue, it's just in the case of popping it off of that bulkhead. I haven't glued anything down here, anything down there, nothing anywhere. So there we go. So what we'll do is leave that to dry, and that's going to hold that in position. Okay, you can see it's pretty solid, and then that will enable us to dry fit the roof into position once the clamps are off, and make sure that everything's going to fit. I don't want to glue this in position and then find that I've got a bloody great big gap under there or something. And then once that's all done, we can get the doors on, the bloody doors on, get the windscreen in, and then that's all closed in then. But we want to make sure we get rid of any dust or anything in there first, so we'll give it a good blowout. But you can see now why I wiped those windows on the inside, because we can't get to them now. You can't get in there you could probably get to those back ones, but just want to make sure there's nothing in there. But there we go, that is our sky crane taking shape. Now I know I said in a previous video that I was going to do all this work here and then add that. You can see now why I didn't do it, because it would all get damaged. A lot of this detail is very, very flimsy, and I don't want to go breaking stuff off, so that's why I haven't added all of that. But yeah, really pleased with that. In fact, we put it down, that's sort of leave that to dry, and then I'll come back and see you when I'm happy that that's all in. And then what we'll do, we'll put sprue glue down in there the same as we did, and we'll get it all nice and solid so it's not going to crack, break or anything. But yeah, really happy with that. Okay, so this has had roughly half an hour. I don't really want to leave it too long, because if I need to move it, I don't really want it being absolutely solid. I want it pretty well gelled off. So I'm just going to gently remove this clamp, and we should be able to see that it's pretty well welded in there. And I just want to check, we can see the joint here is lovely. As I say, the joint around there is lovely, down there is lovely, there is lovely. But I want to check the fit of the roof, because obviously if this is out like this, then the roof joint here is going to be suffering in comparison to the roof joint there. So I'm going to remove this piece of tape here, just get that out of the way. And that's there to protect the detail underneath there. And I've got my roof section here. This tape is just to protect all the rivet details, the same as I did on my Lancaster. So that's going to sit down in there, and it's got some little location slots in the side of it. Gum or something, I don't know what that was. And we can see here that it's going to go down in. It's fitting very nice here, it's fitting very nice there. Now can we pull it together and have a nice fit there? It looks like we can. It looks like it's, yeah. I think we're good to go. I may have to just sand a touch off of here to get it to go down properly. But I think what we'll do is we'll fit the front of the roof and the windscreen all integrally, and then we're not fighting with one against the other, because I'd rather have to fill a seam here than have to mess with the windscreen. But yeah, that's all good. So we know the roof fits, so we can put that over there. So now we can come in with our extra thin, and after this, guys, this will be it. This will be it for part 7, because I'm going to leave this to dry for 24 hours or whatever. I can get some glue into those tabs that I've added, get it all nicely glued up, and we can also get our paintbrush, and we can also run some cement along there, into there at those tabs, into there at those tabs, splash it all over. I'm not going to glue up here because I want to be able to move this when I put the roof in. So I'm not going to glue up the sides in, I'm not going to put glue up in here or up in here, because I want this to be able to move. Okay, so that's all good. So that's all gone in. That's all glued down. We've got cement everywhere in all the joints. And then I want to come in and get some cement into here. Just get that bonded up to that roof section in there. There's a bit of a gap on that side, I don't know why. So I think it's because it's touching just inward. I think this roof's got a slight curve on it, which it shouldn't have, but that's my fault. I should have straightened it out. But there we go. So what I'm going to do now is get some more cement into there, get a good strong solid welded joint. I wouldn't recommend using quick setting here, because I personally don't think the bond is as strong as if you use ordinary. I'll get some up there just to really back that joint up in there. Okay, so that's all in place, lovely. Right, and then what we can do, leave that to dry. I'm going to put a clamp on here again just to hold it together, just like that, and I'm going to put a couple of pegs on here just to hold it all down, just to make sure we don't get any movement. And that will sit there now, and that can all do its weld action and do its thing and get glued together. And then what we can do when the I won't bother filming it, when the actual glue, all this is dry, I'm going to leave it until the morning now, and then I'll come in with, like I did with the rear end, I'll come in with some sprue goo, get that in there, get that all backed up, let that go off, let it all go solid, and then I will come in and we'll do the roof section. I'll show you how I do that, because you may want to do the same. We do have a gap here, very, very small gap, and we do have a tiny little gap there. I'm kind of wondering if I can just get some extra thin into there and a drop into there, just to improve that a bit. And yeah, there is an absolutely tiny gap there. It's about 2 thou with that, so I'm not going to worry about that. Push it back possibly, but I'm not going to worry about it. So there we go, guys. So I'm going to leave that to dry. So we've got the cockpit fitted. We've done our all our glazing. We've looked at doing all the masking. We've sprayed all our clear parts, and using the ASK mask kit, which is bloody awesome. I don't just Peter sends me these at no cost to review on the channel, as some of you know, and I am absolutely amazed by them. I think they're absolutely brilliant. Really like them. They're a very, very thin kabuki tape, and they're so thin that when you paint you get these beautifully sharp clean lines, as I showed you earlier. They're really nice. I really do like them, and they don't have that fluffy edge that you sometimes get with masks. They are really nice. So anyway, I shall stop waffling, leave that to dry, and I will see you all soon with part 8, and we'll get the roof on, and then we can start. I need to make up a jig to put it in or something, and we will start to get it all the details going on. But basically, as I've said before, this is going to be like a tank now. You've built the hull, you've built the suspension, you've got the top on, and now you're going to start adding all your greeblies, and I think it's going to come together fairly quickly, to be honest, because we got most of it built up in there. So I shall see you all soon. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your patience. Obviously, with what's going on in my life at the moment, my mojo's absolutely hammered, but I'm going to keep trying to produce some videos for you guys, because at the moment my channel is going down the pan with the amount of watches I'm getting and everything. It's taken a big dive. That's the trouble. If I don't put out content, then obviously there's nothing for you to watch, so you can't watch. It's just my fault, you know. So anyway, at least it ain't the BBC. You don't have to pay for a license to watch bloody nothing. Right, I'll see you all soon. Thank you for watching. I'll see you for part 8. Bye for now.